have been released by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. And the commander of the 5th Joint Military Region, General Buba Dubekrio, chairs meeting after drivers in Bamenda, chief town of the Northwest Region, complained of persistent harassment from defense and security forces. And legal experts sound warning shots against mob justice, saying the jungle justice is illegal as perpetrators will face the law. The warning comes Our platforms are open for consultation at any time on Canal International on .net. And we begin from this story where in the troubling revelation, a new report has revealed that armed separatists in Cameroon's northwest and southwest regions have been responsible for more than 2,600 civilian deaths since 2017. And of course, they have highlighted the escalating violence and ongoing toll or human toll on the population of the two English-speaking regions. Ntarike Divine Ramsey Jr. comes back to that in this commentary.
We want peace, no more killing.
Armed separatist groups in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon have reportedly killed approximately 2,600 civilians between 2017 and 2023, according to a report released this week by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. This figure represents over 60% of all documented civilian deaths in the ongoing Anglophone crisis. The report spotlights intensifying violence against civilians as the conflict progresses. Initially, there were no reported civilian deaths in 2017, but by 2023, separatists were responsible for more than 300 fatalities. This increase is linked to the movement's radicalization, characterized by the imposition of ghost towns, ransom kidnappings, and the persecution of alleged quote-unquote collaborators. Local community vigilante groups are also implicated in some civilian deaths. Additionally, government forces have been responsible for over 1,600 civilian casualties due to their use of disproportionate force since the start of the crisis. Cameroon's defense forces have faced criticism from organizations like Human Rights Watch for targeting civilians, although the army has often defended their operations as professional. The report highlights the February 14, 2020 Garbu massacre, where military collusion with armed Fulani vigilantes resulted in the deaths of 22 people. 3 soldiers have been charged, and the presidency has mandated compensation for the victims' families.
Ntarike Divine reporting there, and we stay in the northwest region where the commander of the 5th Joint Military Region, Brigadier General Buba Dubekrio, has chaired a meeting of conflicting parties after drivers in Bamenda complained of persistent harassment from defense and security forces. So the drivers were encouraged to make sure they acquire the necessary documents while numerous security checkpoints will be reduced. With calls from Northwest Chief Correspondent Nanyi Collins, Sharifa Saleh report.
In a bid to forestall an outburst of anger in the transport sector security forces in Bamenda, northwest region of Cameroon, a meeting have been held this October 16, 2024, with drivers and transporters. Chaired by the commander of the 5th Gendarmerie Region in the presence of the commander of the 5th Joint Military Region, drivers decried the recurrent age-old problem of money extortion by uniform officers, at times at gunpoint.
If we continue in that light, we cannot cope, because you will find in some areas where passengers are being taken to the bush and the ransoms are being collected. You find in situations where drivers are beaten.
The situation has regrettably been aggravated with the gradual entry of some soldiers.
We will give you a good response, General and me, about the problem you have on the roads and the problem concerning treat on the field.
According to testimonies from drivers, the gendarmerie commander is bent on stamping out the phenomenon.
We are doing our best 2 years ago to improve good relationship between the defense and security forces and unit trade. So we are happy today. You have heard the testimony of those populations. What we need and what we ask them is the collaboration.
Drivers have been advised to be in possession of the required car documents to avoid oiling the corruption machinery. It should be noted that payable checkpoints and hostage taking by non-state armed groups have come to further darken the skies in the transport sector in the northwest region.
And in Douala, residents are facing what is known as an escalating insecurity, as this has prompted communities to make sure they take their own responsibility into their hands. In this report, Maureen tells us more about the formation of Vigilant Groups in order to stop securities in their neighborhood. Maureen.
Cameroon is currently experiencing a severe security crisis, with many cities, including Douala, engulfed in a climate of fear. Residents are increasingly concerned about their safety, leading to the establishment of vigilance committees across various neighborhoods.
Chaque agent de sécurité doit avoir sur lui un groupe de nuit.
In Kamyabasi, located in Douala 2, a vigilance committee has been formed to monitor suspicious activities and alert local authorities when necessary. This proactive approach aims to empower community members to protect their homes and businesses while fostering collaboration with law enforcement. The situation is similar in Bilonge, a neighborhood in Douala 3, where community leaders emphasize the critical role of vigilance committees. These groups serve as a bridge between residents and police, facilitating communication and enhancing security measures.
À partir d'un enfant de 3 ans qui peut faire, on lui donne un sifflet, toute la maison est sifflée. Si déjà quelqu'un attend la porte qui fait groupe, il siffle.
In some Monda area, traditional authorities highlight that the role of vigilance committee members should not replace the responsibilities of law enforcement. Instead, they should complement police efforts, ensuring a united front against crime.
Nous avons juste des causeries éducatives avec notre comité de vigilance, parce que leur rôle, comme je l'ai précisé tout à l'heure, c'est renseigner l'autorité, le chef de quartier.
Despite these initiatives, some community members expressed concern about the quick release of convicted criminals, which undermines public safety. This issue has led to calls for more effective justice system to deter repeat offences. As vigilance committees continue to emerge across Douala, residents remain hopeful that their collaborative efforts with authorities will lead to a safer environment, allowing them to reclaim their neighborhoods from insecurity.
Well, thanks very much, Maureen D. And the 10th Cameroonian Battalion, dispatched 1 year ago to the MINUSCA, has finally returned. The heroic return was saluted by too many Cameroonians, and despite losing 2 of their men, it was a successful peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic, as Haitian Chair reports.
In recent months, cases of mob justice have been reported in several parts of Cameroon. Amid heavy crime waves in the country, suspected criminals are either beaten to death or lynched by the population. Insecurity keeps increasing because when a thief is arrested and handed to the authorities, after some time, we still find them moving freely in the same neighborhood where they were arrested and committing the same crimes. And it is abnormal. It brings about anger, and subsequently when they are arrested, they are killed by the population because they come back in the neighborhood to kill as well. Though many recognize jungle justice is illegal, they say it is the only option for them to get perpetrators punished, citing lack of trust in the police, prison, and judiciary system. We are in the state of law, and one should not render justice by themselves. We need to avoid such acts that reflect violence and should have the law do its work, judging and condemning people for their wrongdoings. We don't just request these criminals to be locked up, but that they should be rid. If the state were doing its job properly, we would have had less of these children in the neighborhoods and mob justice would have reduced. Meanwhile, legal minds condemn the societal disorder and pointing out to the resulting consequences. Mob justice is not regulated because it is forbidden. Engine about practicing mob justice can face the law. When someone is suspected of committing a crime, it is better to take them to the judiciary authorities. When there is mob justice, it is always difficult to identify the perpetrators. But once you're identified, you can be taken to court for law infringement, murder. So before you try mob justice, know that there are consequences. Often, we don't even know if the victim is guilty or not, because everybody is innocent until proven guilty by the law. As concerns rise about recurrent cases of mob justice in Cameroon, with victims violated and inflicted pains or killed, offenders have been cautioned about the sanctions as per the country's penal code. Meanwhile, the population is calling for a more rigorous judiciary system.
Well, we're sorry for that mix-up there. That was Cynthia Lati reporting there on the legal implication of mob justice. And as we're seeing, the 10th Cameroonian Battalion dispatched to the MINUSCA a year ago to the Central African Republic has finally returned. It was a successful mission. And Cynthia says the flag of the nation was finally handed over to the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betiasomo.
They return as heroes, these soldiers from the 10th Cameroonian Battalion, back from MINUSCA after 12 months, as they were mobilized to join the Central African Republic to respond to the security challenges affecting the sub-region.
We are happy to welcome you and wish you a very safe journey home. Before being deployed to the theater of operations, you underwent rigorous training in accordance with the required standards, enabling you to serve reliably under the banner of the United Nations. You had to face a certain hostility in their environment while dealing with the difficulties inherent in this type of operation.
Through this traditional flag return ceremony, the High Command salutes their honorable contributions, a satisfaction also expressed by these soldiers for whom it is a mission accomplished despite the numerous challenges.
Too much challenges, for instance, the bad condition of bridges, of roads, and the fact that we cannot move easily to go and protect civilians, and the area was very, very large. So we think that we have done our best, and now we are very, very proud to come back to our country.
During this mission, the 10th Cameroonian Battalion unfortunately lost 2 men, a sacrifice that confers more prestige and weight to Cameroonians' contribution to military cooperation and defense mission with neighboring and friendly countries, as well as with the United Nations.
Well, thanks very much, Cynthia, for that report. And the American Chamber of Commerce, Cameroon, has partnered with the United States International Agency for Development to make sure they discuss macroeconomic investments in the country. And they have been meeting for 2 days in Cameroon. The ceremony was flagged off, or the summit was flagged off in Yaoundé by the Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Lamine Ousmane. And of course, it's going to continue for 3 days. They have met in Douala with young entrepreneurs. Details in the full report. The American Chamber of Commerce Cameroon, in partnership with the U.S. Agency for International Development, are hosting a summit to strategize on how to forge macroeconomic development in key sectors in Cameroon.
The goal is really bring together all the stakeholders who have nice programs to support investment and trade between U.S. and Cameroon, and AmCham is part of that ecosystem.
Amongst the key sectors is energy, which is a locomotive for any meaningful development. Despite the potential in hydro, solar and wind power, Cameroon, like many countries in sub-Saharan Africa, is still lagging in energy.
This economic potential in Cameroon is high, but it needs to be, then you need some investment in order to really be able to exploit these resources and generate electricity. But it doesn't suffice to generate. You have to transport that electricity in main cities where people are living, and also in the villages where people are living.
This macroeconomic investment summit, holding within the context of economic hardship, will serve as a springboard for the effective takeoff as promised by the U.S. Agency for International Development.
We are grateful to the authorities in Cameroon for allowing us to start the discussion on how to be a partner in trying to see how to attain, the Vision 2030 for the SDGs, but also about, their goals for local economic development in Cameroon, the Visions 2035 for the government of Cameroon.
Plenary discussions focused on the role of youth and women-owned businesses and economic innovations, as well as challenges in supply chain management. The summit will permit leaders in Cameroon and business executives to rethink areas of sustainable development. And we have this release that is coming from the Ministry of Transport, signed by the Minister Bibehe Ngale Bibehe, following the accidents that occurred in the south region of Cameroon. The Minister of Transport informs the general public that following a fatal road accident which occurred on Wednesday, October 9, 2024, along the Yaoundé-Sangmelma Highway, precisely at Kombe Village, involving vehicles with registration numbers LTSR 57280 and LTTR 978 at the belonging to the Betwa Logistics and the Tugade companies, respectively, and bus with registration number CE044OA belonging to the Interurban Transport Agency Galaxy Voyage, which led to the death of 15 people and 15 deaths and 10 injured. Now, initial investigations has revealed that this accident was caused by excessive speed and the loss of control by the driver of the above-mentioned set of articulated vehicles. And so, considering the above stated facts, the Minister of Transport has decided as follows: the suspension of a precautionary basis for a period of 6 months of the Category 3 Public Transport License number 526/SSDT/Mintrans/ the Divisional Transport Delegation /Litera 04 issued to Betwa Logistic Company for their successive involvement in two fatal road accidents which occurred in the same circumstances, and the failure to implement the corrective measures prescribed following the first accident. The suspension on a provisional basis for a period of 3 months of the Category 3 transport license that belonged to Tugade company, and the immobilization for the duration of above-mentioned suspension of all the vehicles operating under their licenses, and the obligatory setting up of the optimal safety device in all vehicles owned by the Tugade and Betwa Logistic companies before their return on duty. And so this has been signed by the Minister of Transport, Ngale Bibehe Masina. And that report, and that, of course, that press release from the Ministry of Transport draws the curtain for this edition of the 6:15. With me, Kejang Henry Atimber. Of course, you got news that armed separatists have blamed for more than 2,500 deaths, and of how the commander of the 5th Joint Military Region, General Buba Dobrkiwo, actually chaired a meeting of conflicting parties, that is between the drivers of the Northwest region and defense and security forces, following persistent complaints of harassment. The Pijo is coming up in a split second with le débrief de l'actualité. Goodbye.